today, July 19th, 2018, we are talking with Valerie Fernando from Laguna, Pueblo, specifically from the village of Mesita. I'd like to give a short background to your life experiences before we get started. Valerie is the daughter of Marian Lucero and Joseph Fernando and was born in 1968. She has two older brothers, Ernest and Joseph. She attended Laguna Elementary School, Laguna Acoma High School, Plaza 3 Academy for Fashion Merchandising, and also New Mexico State University in grants to acquire skills in office administration. Her children are Lois and Clinton Marmon. Both are now students at the University of New Mexico. And most important, she is grandmother to Violet and Jackson, Lois's children. She has been a stay-at-home and working mother, having held positions at the Laguna Post Office, an engineering survey company, a ranching enterprise, and with the Laguna Pueblo Tribal Enrichment Program as a Keres language instructor. For the last 4 years, she has been employed by the AmeriCorps Vista program, developing a community archive and in seeking to enrich language preservation. Past and present volunteer activities include the Roadrunner Food Bank, 7 years as a volunteer with the Native American Community Academy, also known as NACA, and as a volunteer with the UNM Arena and Isleta Amphitheater. Thanks for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you.
In our previous conversations, one of the most important features of your life is growing up around your grandparents. I'd like to start out with a description of how you recall them. Were you close to both sets of grandparents or one more than the other?
I was close to my mother's father and mother. I didn't know my grandfather on my father's side. I knew the grandmother, and I visited her often, but I was really close with my other grandparents.
With your mother's
side.
Your mother's side. What were the circumstances that brought you to live with them?
When I was born, my mother and my father went their separate ways. My mother moved back in with her parents when I was 5 months old, and so then on, that's when I started living with my grandparents. My mother as a single parent and my two older brothers.
You mentioned that your dad was a boxcar kid, and so would he travel between?
I was asking my mom about that, and yeah, he would travel from, she said that they were in Tucson, Arizona. I guess there was some that were there and others that were in California. But she said what she remembers is that he was in Tucson and he would come home because he was originally from Mesita.
Would he come home for ceremonials or special days or?
I'm guessing probably for dances, maybe summer when he wasn't in school, or maybe when he had off. But I'm not too sure like how often or when he came back. I just know
what school was he going to?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay. Describe the home and what attached you to it, to your grandparents' home.
I think it was just the warmth of the home. It was comforting, it was safe, happy. It was a happy environment. It was where all the family gathered on a daily basis. All my mom's brothers, sisters, my cousins, everybody would come there every day to eat. And we would all fit around, squeeze around a table, everybody would bring their food, different food. It was kind of like potluck, like all the time. But the house was mud and rock. It was a mud and rock home. Wasn't too big. It was big enough to house my mom, my brothers, myself and my grandparents, you know, comfortably. You know, we weren't like really packed in there like sardines, you know, but it was big enough to house us. It was in a mud and rock home with mud floors with linoleum covering. It wasn't until later, maybe when I was 12, that they remodeled part of the home and made some of the floors cement and tile and stucco some of the wall, because otherwise it was just whitewashed, whitewashed walls. I just liked the environment. I liked where we were at. We were kind of lived on the edge of the village, so we were exposed to all the ditches, rivers, fields, everything that was, you know, down below. We could just run down and play. And
so very open.
it was very open
spaces.
Yeah. But the house was always warm. My grandparents were always home whenever I came home from school. They were always home. There was always food going, coffee. My grandmother just kept a big pot of coffee going, and you would just smell the food when you walked in. You would smell the coffee. During the summer, they had the door open, so it was just a screen door. And so, you know, you just knew when you... The minute, like, and when I could see, you know, when I had a view, it was like, you know, and go in and you're just home, you know, you're in your comfort, safe zone, you know. That's what I remember of it.
What meals do you remember the most?
Oh, my grandfather owned sheep and different kinds of other, like turkeys, rabbits, pig, chickens, goats. So we ate a lot of that food. You know, our meat source was, he would butcher a goat. You know, that was what our meat source was. I mean, we went out and they bought other food, you know, but my favorite foods, I think, were just kind of like I want to say traditional foods, but it was like, I know my grandma always like fried potatoes, made tortillas, red chili, green chili, the meat, like the leg roast. Oh my God, that was my favorite too. The stews, the hayani that she made. She made hayani stew, that's blue corn mush, but we call it hayani, to drink and to eat. Those are my favorites. Whenever we butcher, just fresh meat. Tamales, piñons, but oh my God, I know what the best thing was deer meat for me. It was like, I loved it. I would always tell my mom and my grandma and everybody that I could eat a whole deer by myself, you know, and they would be like, you know, laughing at me, and I'd be like, no, I'm serious, I could eat a whole deer, you know. And we used everything of the deer. We used the hooves. I know probably people would think like hooves, you know, but I love the deer hooves. There's like a little pattern on the bottom of the foot that you eat, and that's what, oh my God, I love those. We used every part of the deer. We cooked it, we had deer dinners, and then when we're done with it, we would use the horns, you know, like for our dances. We used everything, everything of it.
You mentioned that you were especially close to your grandfather. Can you tell me your earliest memories and what made your relationship so special?
I think it was just the way that he the way he took care of me, I seemed to be really special to him and my grandmother. I was really close to her too. But he was really strict with me, you know.
And you were the youngest.
I was the youngest. He was really strict and protective of me, but he was also very, I don't know how you would say it, but I think he tried to like, everybody say he spoiled me, but he gave me a lot of advice, told me a lot of stuff about our culture, our tradition, was really strict with me, told me how to be as a person, as a female, you know. I mean, and I didn't even have kids then, but he was already telling me how I would care for my children, you know. And the advice that he gave me, like every day he would give us advice as to just how to be, how to treat people, you know. If ever I got married, how to be, you know. And then he was the one that showed me how to make tortillas, the tortilla dough, you know. I remember I was probably like 7, and he showed me one day. He told me, I'm going to show you how to make tortillas, the dough. So I was like, okay. And he showed me. I was standing there watching him because I was already making tortillas, but my grandmother would make the dough, and I would just roll them out, you know, and cook them. We had a big wood stove that we cooked on, and I would make my tortillas on there, you know, make my maps. My tortillas were so big and thin and big, and they called them maps, you know, so. But we ate them. They were like crackers too, you know. And so I remember at an early age I was already making maps, you know, cooking, helping out, setting the table, sweeping the floors, just doing all that. But I think it was just the way that he was real protective and strict, you know.
Yeah. You told us a story about a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
And would you repeat that story for us?
Well, all growing up, I've always had bikes. I like bikes. I like to ride. And so when I got into high school, I needed a bigger bike. And that was like the 10 speeds and those kind of bikes. But anyway, my grandfather, he had all these stores that he would go to back in the day in Grants. Like, they don't even exist, but like White's, the Beans, I remember these stores that we would go to. He had accounts there, you know. Anyway, I really needed a bike, and I would talk about wanting a bike all the time, you know. I need a bigger bike. I wish I could have a bike, you know, and just you know, just talking. I guess my grandfather must have been listening to all my hints or whatever. And then one day he just told me, you know, he said, he told me, let's go. And I was like, okay, where, you know? And he goes, to the store, you know. And I said, okay. So my grandma and him, he always had my grandma with him. And we got in, and we started going, and we went to Grants. And we went to White's. And he goes, okay, let's go in. I didn't really know, you know, what we were going there for. Maybe to pay his bill, I don't know. But it wasn't until then, when we got to the store, he told me to go in and look around and just see what bike I wanted, you know. And I was like, bike, you know. And he was like, yeah, go look, go see. So there I went to the bikes, looking at all of them, and I mean, like, there was one that stuck out right away, you know. It was this purple bike. Purple with a black seat. I still remember, I can still see it with the black handlebars, and I was like, oh my God, walking around it, I really like this one. I really want it. Looked at the price. It was like 300 something, and I thought, oh God, no way. No way I can't get that. It's too much. And so I started looking at other bikes, and he was off. I thought he was off doing something, but he must have been watching me. After a while, he came back. He asked me if I found what I want. Did I decide? And I told him, well, I was kind of afraid to tell him, I want this one, And so I told him, well, I said, I guess I can get this, or this one. And he was like, oh, is that the one you really want? And I said, I was like, well, no, but I can just settle for, one of these ones. And he goes, well, which one do you really want, Of course, all I care is, And I was like, I didn't want to just come out saying. Finally, I said, well, I really want this one, but I told him I know it's too much and I know I can't have it, so I'll settle for one of these other two. And he goes, Hatsukayu, that means how much is it? And I just held up the tag, and he looked at it, and I don't know, my grandpa had this way of how he would look at things and, make his face gestures, like he's contemplating, and he was like, just looking at it, and he was like, is this the one you really want? And I said, mm-hmm. And he goes, well, let's get it. And I was like, really? And he was like, mm-hmm. So we went, I found the clerk, the salesperson, and I'm like, I told them that, we want this bike. And they looked at it and they were like, oh, okay, but I don't think we have it in stock. I was like, because I was just like, couldn't wait to get home and ride it and everything, and we don't have it in stock, we'll check. And they came back, we don't have it in stock. I was like, oh no. And then they said, but we can order it, we can order one. So my grandpa was like telling them, okay, order one for her, They said it'd take about a week to get here, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait a week, I need it now. But I said, okay. And so we ordered it, put the order in, and I was like so happy, went home, told my brothers. And then I told my brother, when my bike comes in, and you go up to get it, can you please fix it for me? Put it together and have it ready for me to ride when I get home from school. And he was like, okay, and I'll try, But every day I was just counting the days, wondering when my bike came in. And then sure enough, one day, I got off the bus, I went and I could see our porch from a ways, and I could see my bike sitting there, like, oh my God, my bike. And I ran, jumped on it, looked at it, jumped on it, and went riding around the village. I was like so happy. It was the greatest bike ever. I still have it today. It's not running. It's not it needs parts, but I can't throw it away.
So your grandfather fulfilled that dream for you.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
I have another story about this. Everybody never forgets this.
Okay.
Like I told you, I like deer hooves. I know everybody is probably good, but I like deer hooves. And my grandfather would always go hunting all the time, right? And a lot of times, my mom, they would put all the hooves aside, and I guess cook them at once because it took them long to cook. You had to cook them long. Well, I wanted some, and nobody was cooking them. So I thought, I'm gonna cook them, you know. So I got a pot and I filled it with water and I put some herbs in there. And I put it on the stove. Well, I didn't know at that time that you have to like keep checking and add water and check and add water. I just put them on and went to go play, everything. And all of a sudden, I guess all the water evaporated and my hooves were burning. And my mom smelled them and I guess she went in to go see what was going on, and it was the pot of hooves and they were all burned and stuck to the pot. Oh my God, my mom was so mad at me because that was her new pot that I used. And it was one of those, I guess they're like, back in the day they were the pot, like the speckled enamel pot. Some brand, I don't know, that she had. It was brand new and I burned it for her. So she called me in, I ran in, my hooves, you know, I'm thinking, and I could smell it when I opened the door. Oh no. And all I could see is my mom standing there like so upset. And she's like, what did you do? Why did you watch? You know, you have to watch. And I was like, I didn't know. I started crying. I think I was like 8 years old by then, or 9, something. I was crying. And my grandma comes in and she's like, what's going on? And I told her, I said, I burned the hooves. And she goes, oh, you know, so she looked and she saw the pot. My mom was upset. And she told my mom, you know, it's okay, you know, don't get mad at her. You know, she didn't know. And I was sitting there crying, of course, you know, sitting there crying. And my grandmother left the room, and my grandfather always worked outside. She went outside. I don't know what they were talking about. And my grandma came back in and she said, don't cry, you know, don't cry, come on, don't cry. So I got up, she got me, and she was talking to me, you know, just soothing me, comforting me. It's okay, you didn't know, you know, you didn't know. It's all right, everything's going to be on. I kept telling her, but my mom is really mad at me, you know, my mom's really mad at me. And she said, it's okay, it's all right. And then soon enough after that, my grandpa comes back in from working, and he's washing up and everything, and he goes, Tro, you know, let's go. And my grandma gets her purse and she's like, let's go. And I was like, where are we going? And they said, let's just come on. We'll tell you, you know, on the way. And I said, oh, okay. So I went, we got in the truck, and we started going. About maybe not soon after that, I asked, I said, where are we going? You know, like, what's going on? And she said, we're going to go buy your mom a new pot. And I was like, oh, I said, really? And I was like, they said, we know where to get one. We're going to go get one. So we went, they drove, and they got my mom a new pot. But up to this date, everybody still remembers that. And my brothers, and, oh, remember when you burned the hooves? You know, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, the kinds of things family doesn't like
Yeah.
to forget, yeah. How do you think being raised around your grandparents later affected your life?
I think just the upbringing of, you know, well, my upbringing, what they taught me, how they showed me, told me stuff, you know, whatever they taught me in ways of our language, our cultural ways of life, our traditional way of living, you know, that had a big impact on me, you know, just everything that they instilled in me, that they put in me, showed me, you know, how I was brought up, participating in our ceremonies, participating in our dances. I just feel that all that had an impact on me, stayed with me I lived it, I grew up in it. So now in my older years, you know, it's helping me to want to carry on those traditional and cultural ways of life on the Pueblo. It's helping me want to preserve the culture, but the language, you know. I'm trying to keep the language alive by talking and teaching my kids and now my grandchildren. You know, I think, I know that just all that way of life, me growing up, has impacted me in that way. To what I want to do those things today.
You decided on being a stay-at-home mom when so many other women were choosing, you know, to work outside the home, and you know, and you decided until they were in school that you would be a stay-at-home mom. Why did you think that was so invaluable to you?
To be a stay-at-home mom, to be there for your kids, I got that from my grandmother. It was very, that was a huge importance in my grandmother's life. She was a stay-at-home mom. She never worked. Her and my grandfather always believed that you should be, that you should be the one there to be able to take care of your children and nurture them. I guess maybe the old way of living, you know. My grandmother didn't believe too much in the mothers working, and that's what they always stressed to me. Whenever you have kids, you know, you're going to have to stay at home and take care of them. And so that was important to me, and I felt that I had to live up to that rule in order to respect my, you know, what I was taught, my grandparents, what they put on me, you know, to be a stay-at-home mom. So when I did get in a relationship, and I did go to school, I did work, but when we decided that we wanted to have a child, you know, it was important for me to sit down and talk and say, you know, I want to have a family, but I'm going to have to quit working, and I will quit working, and I will stay at home with the child until she goes to kindergarten, you know. I wasn't too big on Head Start. I don't know why. You know, I just felt that I could teach them what they were learning in Head Start. But I know once they hit 5 years old, they do have to go to school. So that's why it was important for me, and I did quit working. You know, once we decided to start a family and have a child, and I quit working, and I was a stay-at-home mom until Lois, she started going to kindergarten at Laguna Elementary. That was when I got in with the post office. After that.
So was there much talk about working mothers in the village?
Yeah, there was amongst the elderly women. Yeah, it was really important for the woman to stay home, you know, and for the husband or the man to go out and provide for the family, and for the mother to stay home.
And we're talking 1990s when you had your children. So that was still the same. Okay. You have dedicated much of your time to your children's educational pursuits. Why has education been such an important value to instill in them?
It's important for them to have education, because I just feel that now in these, nowadays, like Harvey says, it's important that you have education. Back in my day, education wasn't really like impressed upon us, I guess I would say. It was more the role of a Pueblo woman, I feel, like in traditional ways, of living. I guess, I don't know if I worded that right, but it's the role, I want to say the role of a female. I'm not saying that Pueblo women can't go out and be educated, but when I was growing up, and then like when I hear my mom and my aunts talking, education wasn't really impressed upon them, so they were lucky if they even graduated high school, A lot of women back then, like when I talked to the community, people, a lot of them only went as far as maybe 8th grade, 9th grade, and didn't graduate high school. They ended up just getting married, and then just living the traditional life, and that, and I can see that importance with everything that I grew up with and being involved with the community, the dances, just the participation and all that aspect. I can see that and I can respect that, but I also can see that you need the side of education, and so for me, like I said, education wasn't really impressed upon me. I feel like I kind of had to like beg and fight with myself that if, am I going to have that educate, like I want to go to college. But I don't really have the support from my family to go to college, And so I kind of was for a while in that spot, like, well, should I go or should I not, or how am I going to get there? Because I don't, am I gonna I felt like I had to say, please, can I go to Plaza 3? Please, I really want to go. So I went to Plaza 3, and but like I said, by then I think I'm still fighting with like, wow. Am I doing wrong? Am I not sticking to what I'm supposed to be sticking to? My grandmother seemed like she was understanding, so I didn't feel so bad. At that time, though, my grandfather was going through a lot of medical stuff, like he was in and out of the hospital, and that played a big role too on my life and what I wanted to do, because I wanted to be there for him. I graduated in 1986, and in December of that year is when he passed away. So it was like, it was hard for me to try to, I guess, adjust, just knowing everything that he's told me, he's taught me when my grandma was still there. So so I did a lot of stuff with my grandma, but I was afraid. I honestly was afraid to go to work because of just what how she's taught me. But then I was thinking, wow, but I don't have any kids yet, so it would be, I'm thinking it would be okay for me to work, and that's when I went to work. I actually went to work at the Laguna Industries, and I worked in the Human Relations Department, and she knew I worked, but it was then when I decided to have my child or start a family, is when I quit working altogether. And which you see happy with that. And
Yeah.
that was what I wanted to do, was, I guess, please her out of respect, or, just, I wanted to do everything right, or tried to do everything right for her or by her.
Yeah. You speak really passionately about your commitment to the cultural ways of your community. How do you define a traditional woman's role within your family and community?
Just from growing up, just seeing, to me, again, I say, you can be traditional in different sorts of ways, but for me, seeing the Pueblo woman carry out the role that's put upon a Pueblo woman, traditional woman, and to me, that's participating in the community, participating in ceremonies, participating in dances, the learning, the cooking, there's the ways, the cultural ways, the traditional ways of cooking, like cooking out, I call it old school food, learning all those ways of like grinding cornmeal, all the protocols, the respect, the responsibility that you hold, when you're married and you're married to a traditional Pueblo man, just being there for them in the way that you're expected to be there for them, taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, just being there, cooking, cleaning, not being lazy, but also being respectful to all the elders, of how they, showed you how to be.
And so within this role, what do you think are your major responsibilities? So you talk about community responsibilities and you talk about family responsibilities.
Yeah, family responsibilities, being there for my children, being there for my grandchildren, being there for my mother, for my aunt, just being involved. I feel like before my grandfather passed, our family was a tight bond family. And when my grandfather passed away, we kind of, drizzled apart. I myself, it still hurts me today, and I always tell my kids and my mom, because I grew up with that tight-knit family, that's how I still see it. I still see my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, like that. I would still, if they came to me and asked me, can you help me with this, but if I can't, can you help me, I need help making bread, I'd be there in a minute. No expectations like, oh wow, what are you gonna give me, because that's what family is, that's how I feel. Okay, so like I'm always telling my kids, we're related to this person, we're related to that person, that's your uncle, that's your aunt, that's your grandparents, and I tell them the ways that we're related, either through blood, clan, however, and I tell them, because I was taught, know your relatives, speak to your relatives, go up and say hi, shake their hand, how you doing, are you okay, do you need any help, without expecting anything back, and I tell that to my kids, I tell that to my son. And today I kind of feel sad at times because it's not there like from the other family members, you know. And I tell my kids, it's okay as long as you go say hi, you know. Say hi, say how are you, you know, do you need any help? I'm here, you know. Would you like any help with anything? You need wood chopped, you know. You need me to help, I don't know, fix something. You want me to chop your weeds, you know. Nobody does that anymore, but I was taught that, and so I'm still trying to teach my kids and my grandchildren those. So I feel like that's my responsibility in one way, you know, to show that to my kids, to be there for my kids, to be there for my grandchildren, for my community. I want to be able to participate. I want to continue to help with our community work days, you know, like they clean the church, or, you know, clean the village for feasts. The men go clean the ditches. You know, I encourage my son to go help, you know, because those are things that all need to be done as a community member, you know, being from the village or the Pueblo, you know. We're all affiliated with a certain village, and at the beginning of the year we present ourselves to the merumas, to the mayordomos of the village that are selected through the community. We kind of put ourselves over to them and tell them that, you know, that we call it presenting ourselves. So we present ourselves, you know, saying, you know, who we are and our kids, and that we are community members and we're here to help however we can as community people. So, but just participating, I'm in our sacred ceremonies, our dances, through prayer. Just you know, like I said, there's just different avenues that I feel that, you know, I'm responsible for.
In this modern world, how difficult is it to raise traditional or children with traditional values?
I feel that it's a challenge. I feel that it's a challenge more now, like with my grandchildren, than it was with my kids. Only because maybe they're exposed to more. Okay, like growing up, living on the reservation with my kids, you know, we were always there for. I want, like, you know, when I say everything, I mean like grab days, dances, ceremonies, just rabbit hunts. I don't know, just things that go on, you know, in the daily
process.
Life, you know, of living like on the Pueblo, you know. And now the challenge of my grandchildren living off the reservation and living in the city, you know, and not seeing them I mean, I see them, I guess I could say I see them on a daily basis, but not like, they're not living with me 24/7, how their mom and, you know, my son.
The process is choppy.
The process is choppy, and they're exposed now to more technology, you know, cell phones. My little grandson is 2, and he's already, you know, carrying around a cell phone, you know, just, you know, swiping, and I'm like, you know, and in a way I'm happy and I'm thankful that he's, you know, that bright and smart. But I tell my daughter, I tell his mom, you know, don't give him that phone, you know, So we go back and forth, wow, you know, it's not a bad thing, you know, it's gonna help. And I'm thinking, I know, but, you know, he needs to be learning, you know, our cultural stuff, but he does, you know, he gets a drum, he sings, you know, he dances all day long, you know, he has his own dances, and so he's learning both, you know, but I just feel like that's a challenge. Like with my granddaughter sometimes, you know, it was a whole lot easier when she was like 1 to 5 years old or 6 years old. I'm noticing now that I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure it out, but I notice now, like when I talk to her in our language, you know, or maybe it just depends on the day, but I know that sometimes I talk to her in our language, you know, she'll just look at me, you know, as to before, you know, when I would talk to her, she seemed like she was just on it and talking back, but now she's kind of like with her phone, and she's like, you know, and I'm like, put the phone away, you know, put the phone away. And my rule is no phones at the table when we're eating, you know, no phones at the table. And so it's been like that with my kids. I tell them no phones at the table. Now I'm having to tell my granddaughter no phones at the table, you know. Sometimes she'll be trying to like, but I just want to watch this movie while I eat, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm like, the phone don't belong on the table, you know. We're gonna eat, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna eat, we're gonna talk about different things, and no phone. So I feel that it's a little challenging for me.
So as a head of household, can you share with us the preparations that go into a feast day, preparing for dances, preparing for the visitors that you invite into your house?
Oh my God.
What kind of work does that entail?
It's a lot of work, you know, it's a lot of work, but I feel it's a lot of good work. You know, my grandpa always told me that it's not until you've like sweat and worked hard that you kind of feel your blessings, even if it's just feeding people, because you work so hard, you know, and you put all your love and your effort and your caring and your prayers into what I'm making, you know. And I talk to my food as I'm cooking it to fill people with good health and happiness, you know, that when they eat the food that it nourishes their body. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of sweat, it's a lot of preparation, just I don't know, let's see, because you have to, you know, it just depends what you're gonna make. You're gonna make bread, or you're gonna make pies, or you're gonna make cookies, you're gonna make stew. Just getting everything together, the meat, the pasoli, the corn, you know, just different things, whatever you're gonna use. My granddaughter likes roast corn stew, and that's a process, but I still do that today. So we used to plant our own corn and roast it, and I would dry after we have an oven full of roast corn, we would let everybody have their fill of corn, eat it, even let them take some to make their own Chicos or whatever, you know. But I would tie the corn, you know, dry them, and when they're all dry, take them off the corn, shake them outside, you know, in a pan, you know, just so they can get clean. That's how we clean them. Then pack them. I pack them in jars, metal cans, whatever I can, so like the mice or nothing gets to them. And we put them away, and that's what we use to make stew. We ask each other who has roast corn, you know, or, you know, Valerie has roast corn.
That was going to be my next question is, in getting ready for this day, what types of help do you receive from family or other community members?
We kind of all know like the feast is coming. Who's gonna cook what? Who's gonna make what? You know, and so I already pretty much know what I'm gonna make and what I'm gonna cook. And then like I'm trying to. Well, I teach Lois, you know, so when feast is coming up, she asked me, "Mom, what are you gonna make?" So I can make, you know, I make something else different, you know. And so I'm like, okay, I call my mom, what are you gonna cook? You know, she usually has her same, like, I don't want to say her same stews, but you know, stews that she cooks. And then she'll get in touch with my aunt, you know, and her daughter, you know. So by the time my mom's calling me, she's like, oh, Auntie Hannah or, you know, Merce, they're gonna make this, and I'm gonna make that, and you're gonna make, you know. So I'm like,
So
okay.
it's a collaboration.
Yeah, so we all kind of collaborate on what we're all gonna make. So who's gonna make the bone stew? Well, I'll make the bone stew this time, you know, or it don't matter, we have 2 bone stews, you know, because, you know, we might run out or whatever. So, you know, we just kind of collaborate our menus, you know, and same with the, when we're having our dances, 2 feast day dances, you know, we all kind of, you know, and I tell my mom or Lois right away, like, wow, this is what I'm gonna make. I'm gonna try to do this, you know, because there's a lot that goes into it, you know, and a lot of preparation, and we're busy the whole maybe whole week, 2 weeks before the actual, just
And not knowing how many people are going to show up. One of the other cultural preservation things that we've talked about is that you enjoy sewing and designing traditional clothing. What got you into that, and how are you passing these skills along to other people?
As far back as I remember, I've always liked to sew, and I don't know if it was because my mom sews, my grandmother sewed, my aunt Hannah sews traditional clothing. They were the main ones in our family that I would see on a daily basis. So
it's normal.
Yeah, so that seemed normal to me. My mom makes traditional cross-stitch aprons that we wear with our traditional, you know, when we're doing our ceremonies. Not very many people do that anymore, but she's still doing it. My grandma Lucy did that. She made aprons as well. So, and quilts, my mom makes quilts. She does everything handmade. My grandmother Lucy did the same thing, hand sewn quilts. So of course, when I was small, I wanted to sew, so they would give me little scraps, you know, to sew. I would make little pillows or little doll clothes, you know, whatever, little blankets, and I just kept that interest, you know, and I wanted to design clothes. I remember that's why I really wanted to go to school for fashion merchandising. And then it wasn't till about maybe around the late 80s, 90s, I got a sewing machine. And that's when I just started sewing. And then I had Lois. I started making her all kinds of dresses, mantas, all like the traditional stuff. I just started making her fancy Christmas dresses, skirts, and I would just do that. And then there came a time when I actually had orders to make clothes, because they would see what Lola was wearing, so they would want one for, I don't know, their little girl or something. So I started doing that, you know. I would start making whatever somebody saw asked me to do, you know. I also just would make like traditional clothing for other little girls, you know. I didn't charge them. I just, you know, it was just something that I wanted to do and give
Yeah.
to them, and I would do that, you know.
Are you passing that on to
Yeah.
other?
I'm trying to teach Lois. Lois has got interest in when she sees me sewing, making the dresses. Now she wants to make her own dresses. She wants to learn how to make her own dresses for herself and Violet. I also do the traditional Indian shirts for my son, for his father, for now my grandson.
What do you think have been your major challenges in life, and how do you think that you have overcome them?
Becoming a single parent, it was hard after being in a relationship for so long, and that was like the life I knew. So when I became a single parent, then the challenge of having to provide for my kids, making sure that, you know, they're okay, they're happy. I didn't want to disrupt their lives. There was no way to, you know, avoid it, but just to try to make things, I guess, maybe stable for them. I felt that was a challenge, and just helping me focus on myself, I guess, on what I had to do to be that parent for them. You know, I felt like I had to take on a double role. You know, although their father was still very involved in their life, I felt I had to be twice as strong, you know, just be the mom and the dad, and I had to focus on getting myself prepared to go out there and move on, to have the job or to do a job that I can provide for my kids, you know, getting that income, being there for them emotionally, you know, physically, just in every way. Well, just knowing my cultural part of, you know, my traditional ways, praying, continuing to participate in our community and participate in our ceremonies.
That helped you get
Yes,
through.
that played a big role in helping me stay grounded, you know, helping me stay strong, I guess, to be able to be there for them.
What advice would you give to young women today about balancing the modern world with traditional responsibilities?
The advice I would give them is for them to just stay strong, believe in themselves, be true to themselves, you know, and just know that they can overcome whatever challenge it is that's happening in their life. Reaching out to your resources, you know, don't be afraid, don't be embarrassed, you know, just stay strong, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help, because after all, we're only human and we can only carry so much. Like I said, a lot, you know, helped me with being able to participate in my ceremonies, in my culture, that helped me with prayer, you know, song, dance, everything. Just, I felt, you know, that's where I got a lot of my strength, you know, kept me grounded, kept me focused, you know, to stay on that pathway to provide and be there, to keep carrying on the responsibility that I had to as a parent for my kids.
Well, we're at the end of our interview,
Okay.
but I wanted to ask you one last question.
Okay.
Is there anything that you wish to add to the interview, or in reflecting on your life's experiences? One of the, you know, we've talked about how you would want your children to remember you, but what of those life experiences have been important to you?
Being a community intern as a Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. I'm working with Dr. Rose Diaz, getting all the training, guidance, everything that I need to know about archives, about starting a community archives, language preservation, history preservation, all that. I want them to know that, that's something I enjoy doing, and I'm very thankful.
And you've established quite a few networks.
Yes.
Through that process as well.
Right. So that's a big deal for me, So, and I'm really thankful and grateful because you've taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. You've opened doors for me. Not only professional training, but guidance and strength when I need it, and and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for everyone here at the Cultural Center, that's helped me, that continues to help me, move on with what I'm doing today, like doing the community archives. I found that passion, and I want to do that for my community as well as preserve the language. I'm thankful for all the community members, my aunts, my uncles, my family, my brothers, just my kids, everyone that helps me every day.
What would you like your children to remember? What's the biggest thing that you'd like your children to remember about you?
I just want them to remember everything that is important to me, and that they know what's important to me, that I try to instill in them. I hope that they carry on all the advice, the teachings that I've tried to give to them that I grew up with. I hope they can carry that on to their kids, and I tell them that today. I always tell them, I know you already heard this, I know, I'm repeating myself, but, just remember me, just happy, when we were in our happiest moments,
Well, thank you for participating in our project, and I'm happy to have had you as our first interviewer, as our first narrator.
Oh.
So we're excited about this, so thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much.